Unfortunately, this week's cruise news includes multiple tragedies, but stick around as not all cruise news is bad news. Ahoy travelers, it's Amy here with your weekly Cruise News Roundup and my thoughts on some of the biggest stories of the week. In a tragic story, 2 crew members lost their lives in a freak engineering accident on board Holland America's Nieuw Amsterdam yesterday morning. While no specifics have been given, the captain's announcement described it as a steam leak, and the ship's fire alarms went off shortly after 9 a.m. while docked in Half Moon Cay. Guests were never called to their muster stations, but crew members did respond to the emergency. In a statement, the line said, "We regret to share that while calling at Half Moon Cay, the Bahamas, there was an incident in an engineering space on board Nieuw Amsterdam, which sadly resulted in the death of 2 crew members. The appropriate authorities were notified and the cause of the incident is currently being investigated." While the ship's onboard systems were not affected and the vessel's safety, navigation, propulsion, and hotel and restaurant operations continued to function as normal, the ship was delayed in leaving Half Moon Cay for 3 hours due to the investigation. Now, it's unknown what exactly occurred or what the captain meant by a steam leak, but it definitely conjures up some gruesome images for me. The line went on to say that they are offering counseling services to crew members affected by the incident. Now, there are definitely some questions surrounding our next tragic story. On the recent sailing on the MSC Euribia, Liam Jones, a Scottish man, went overboard under some questionable circumstances while on a cruise with family. Now, Jones's wife, who was not on the ship, received a text from her husband saying that he was seasick. The next communication she received didn't say how long it was between these. It was from her sister-in-law telling her that there had been an accident and that her husband wasn't coming back. Now, family members on board were able to view security footage that confirmed that Jones went overboard, but reports vary as to whether it was deliberate or an accident. Now, police boarded the vessel when it returned to Southampton on Friday in order to conduct an investigation on behalf of the coroner. Jones's family has not been happy with what they see as a lack of communication from the cruise line, especially his wife, as she wasn't on board at the time. Now, no details have been released on the circumstances surrounding the overboard incident and if there were any arguments or other factors that led to this incident occurring. Now, with all the overboard incidents last year, we have talked more than once about how unlikely it is that someone would accidentally go overboard. Now, you can't just trip and fall overboard without there being some kind of mitigating circumstance like horseplay or alcohol involved. Ships are designed to prevent something like that from happening. I like to make sure to address this as the fear of going overboard can be a real one for some. And it's important for people to realize that these incidents are not only rare, but even when it's considered an accident, meaning that the person didn't intentionally jump or wasn't pushed overboard, those accidents could have been prevented if better choices had been made. Not drinking as much, not playing around, not putting yourself in precarious positions for that selfie. So our hearts do go out to everybody that knew these people that have lost their lives this week in these tragic incidents. The last couple of weeks, we have been talking about the unrest in Haiti affecting cruising. Royal Caribbean has notified guests originally scheduled to stop at Labadee that their itineraries have been adjusted at least for the next month in order to avoid the region. It will be interesting to see how long Royal will continue to cancel stops in Labadee with no end in sight to the devastation going on in Port-au-Prince due to gangs taking over the capital. Will the violence continue to be contained to the capital city? And if so, for how long? For now, I'm just glad that Royal has continued to decide to keep their passengers as safe as possible by not docking in Haiti. I have 2 more stories that are thankfully much lighter in nature, but before we get to those, if you enjoy this video and maybe even learned something, consider subscribing with the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any future posts. Well, Carnival ambassador John Heald fielded yet another complaint on his Facebook page this week about missed ports. While experienced cruisers and anyone that reads their cruise contract will know the cruise line is not obligated to compensate guests for missed ports. However, it seems that some people still haven't gotten that message. Or maybe all the times cruise lines do choose to give out onboard credits for missed ports have caused some confusion. Possibly. Now, one parent was really upset this week when their ship missed out on their stop at Princess Keys. We missed Princess Keys today because it was too rough and windy. That is what they said on the announcement. None of us agree. I love it when they say none of us. Nobody else agreed. Who'd they talk to? So they go on to say that the reason why no one agreed is because the sea was calm. So they said they had 2 children. This is their spring break. They are 8 and 11 years old. They have been so excited to be on the beach. The front desk people, already I don't like how they say that, the front desk people, said you do not compensate. They will not do anything for the children. You should open the arcade for free playing at least. The money is more important than the happiness of my children is what you're saying. This is not fair on our children, John. The cruise is ruined. Ruined, I say! Ruined. I can't even imagine making such a statement, but once again, John uses tact and some British humor to deal with this grumpy cruiser. Thank you, and of course, I'm so sorry for you, your children, and all the people who missed the port of Princess Key, especially the children. The ship aborted the port call at Princess Key due to adverse weather following consultation with the island manager and tender operators. It may not have appeared too bad. The swells would have made using the tenders very dangerous for everyone, including the children. And of course, it is massively disappointing, and I do have sympathy for her. I really do. But I know the crew, and especially in this case, the youth staff at Camp Ocean would have done everything to make sure the kids had the best of times and loads of fun. However, I have to ask, was it really a cruise that was ruined? Now, I agree, there's no way to just ruin a cruise because you missed one stop. But John went on to list all the things us Gen Xers had to deal with as children. Things like winding our watches, returning library books on time, and having to wait to record our favorite songs off the radio. Now that's a core memory for me, sitting on my bedroom floor with my finger on the record button of my boombox with its dual cassette decks while I waited for the top 40 countdown to get to my favorite song and the DJ to stop talking. The point John was making was that kids today don't know how good they have it, especially while they're enjoying a cruise. Now, first off, there's no way a cruise is going to miss a port, especially one of their own private islands, unless they have to. Doing so is a huge hassle, and it's unlikely to save a line enough money to make it worth it. Personally, I think that if this is how this parent reacts to something like a missed port, it's likely their child will grow up to be entitled as well. It's one thing to ask for legitimate compensation for something, but that's not what this is. If this parent is so concerned that their kid needs something to do to distract them from the disappointment of not going ashore, maybe they should pay for some arcade time themselves. I like what one parent commented. My son and I are beyond excited to get on the Jubilee this Saturday. It is a first cruise for both of us, and I will be celebrating my birthday on Monday. I've already told him that we may not be able to get off the ship at all ports depending on the weather. His response, "That's okay, Mom. We'll still have fun." He is 7. This vacation is about us spending time together. If we get off the ship at ports, great. If not, there's plenty to do on board to keep us occupied. Now that is how a parent should be dealing with situations like this. Prepare them for the possibility that they won't get to go on all excursions that they had planned, but there's so much to do on board that they're gonna have fun no matter what. And some adults should remember that as well. Now for me, I love a good sea day as much as I do time at port. If it's a once-in-a-lifetime cruise to a place I may never get back to again, I would for sure be disappointed at an itinerary change. But I'm aware it is a possibility. We're headed to Norway this fall, and I would be super disappointed if one of our ports are canceled. And in a situation like that, a little bit of onboard credit isn't going to change the fact that I missed out on a port of call that I may never get to see again. For those who insist on compensation, there is travel insurance out there that reimburses for missed ports. Maybe you need to look into it. Have you ever missed out on a port that you really wanted to visit? If so, what was it, and did you receive any compensation from the cruise line? While Royal Caribbean has had to temporarily suspend stops to their private destination in Labadee, they announced yesterday that they are adding a new private beach club to their lineup. Beginning in 2026, Royal Caribbean will open a new Royal Beach Club in Cozumel. Exclusively for Royal Caribbean guests, the club will be located on the western coast of the island and will include a variety of amenities and activities. Things like swim-up bars, private cabanas, snorkeling, kayaking, a street market, and hands-on experiences like tequila tasting and cooking classes. Now, for every private beach club and island, that is less money going directly to locals. While the private clubs do hire locals and they pay taxes, the cruise lines are definitely not creating these just to provide a fun spot for their guests, but to keep as much cruise money flowing into the line's pockets as possible. Now, I may be a little cynical, but I don't think I'm being overly so in this instance. These private destinations can be great for cruisers. They provide a safe environment with a lot to do, but they do keep cruisers and their money contained. For me, the biggest issue that I have with the private clubs is the lack of local flavor. In my opinion, you might as well be at a beach club in the Florida Keys for all the difference there is. And I usually try to avoid itineraries that include these. The only one I have been to is Norwegian's Harvest Key, which is in Belize. Now, since I had been to Belize several times, I didn't feel like I was really missing out that much. But what are your thoughts on cruise lines' private clubs and islands? Is there one that you just love going to? With even more in the works, you will definitely see more cruises stopping at these private locales. Want to know what we thought about our stop at Norwegian's Harvest Key? Why not stick around and check out this video and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.